Hello there everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at how we can create this kind of animation, looping animation. This is something that I've done as part of a series in which I've done a bit more animations similar to this. They're all in this kind of satisfactory looping animations that you can watch forever. Now, believe it or not, making something like this is extremely easy, and I suppose it won't take us a lot of time. So let's open up Blender and get started. Alright, so here I am in Blender, and what we want to do is first of all create a plane. This is going to be our wall, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna scale this by 4, just enough to have some room to work with. I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees so it sits vertically like this. Now this is not a necessary step, but you can do it anyway. I'm just going to make this sit on the bottom like this. Now what you want to do is go into edit mode, select everything and click W. Now go subdivide, and in here just increase the number of cuts, something like this, maybe like 9. I like the number 9, that's my birthday. Now after we have this, just press 3 to get into the face select mode, and what you can do in here is insert this. So by pressing I 2 times you can insert all those faces just like this. And now what you want to do is press E and extrude this outwards, something like this. And now we have this wall, this pattern in here. What I'm going to do instead is go in here and I'm going to enable cavity just so we see better what we are working with, like this. Now it's easier to follow and understand what we are looking at. Alright, so we have our wall. It'll look like this, and I'm gonna go ahead and create a material for this. I'm gonna call it wall. I'm gonna give it some color, and I'm going to make it the roughness 0.1. Just want this to be pretty reflective. That's gonna give me some nice shadows, some nice reflections, and it's not going to look that flat and bland, which is not something pleasing. Alright, I think I'm just gonna change the color a bit, something like this. Alright, now what we want to do next is create a cylinder just like this. I'm gonna put the origin on the bottom, move this out of the way. I'm gonna zoom into it and I'm going to delete the bottom face just like that. I'm going to shade smooth and I'm going to select auto smooth. Alright, now what I want to do with this is I'm going to make all those little arms that you saw that are coming out of the wall, and those are nothing else than just some cylinders placed randomly around that area. So what you want to do is rotate this until it makes sense and nicely place that like that. And now just rescale it until you like what you have. So something like this would work. Now I want to take care of this sharp edge, so I'm gonna go into edit mode and I'm going to select this outer circle, this edge. I'm gonna go Ctrl B and I'm going to bevel this just like this. Now we have a nice beveled edge in there. Now what you want to do is you have this first pole. You are going to want well, first of all, just let's make a material for this. Let's call it pole, because then we are going to duplicate this and I want it to have the material on it before I start duplicating, so afterwards I don't have to copy the material into all the other poles we're going to duplicate. Alright, so now that it has a material, I'm just gonna go into the front view, and I'm just going to go Shift D and, you know, just create something random. Doesn't matter how this is looking like. This is where you get to be creative. Now make sure there are not that much big spaces between those poles, because you wanna, the pleasing part about this animation is when the ball hits those poles and kind of jiggles around between them. So you want to make sure that you have some nice and tight spaces around here. So, you know, just go Shift D a bunch of times and make something out of those poles. So, you know, go crazy, go easy, no one cares. This is your animation. No one can tell you what to do. Alright, so we have all of these poles, but I think that they are all way too extruded outwards, so I'm just gonna move those back a bit, just like this. Now this is looking a bit more interesting, like this. Alright, we are gonna take care of the materials and the lighting afterwards. The materials and the lighting aren't any complicated anyway, so that won't take a lot. Now I want to mention that I'm in Eevee, but the final render will be done in Cycles, just because I'll have these, the poles will be a glass material, and glass doesn't really behave nice in Eevee, so we are going to do a cycle render. Now what you want to do is create those little balls that are going to fall through those poles. So I'm gonna go Shift A and I'm going to create a round cube. And the reason why I'm creating a round cube instead of a normal sphere is because the round cube is made out of quads entirely, as you can see, while this has those poles that do not really have a uniform and perfect topology. So yeah, just work with a round cube. I'm gonna go Control 1 and create a subdivision surface, level 1. I'm going to shade smooth this, and I'm going to place it on top. So I'm now gonna place this ball wherever I want it to fall from. Do it like this. I'm gonna make this a bit smaller. Yeah, all right. And let's do a first test with this ball. So what you want to do now is make it behave like a cloth. So the way you do this is by going into this tab, which is called Physics Property, and select Cloth. Now if you start this, you'll see that it is falling off, it's falling down. And the reason it doesn't interact with all of these poles, it's because they don't act as a collision. So what I'm going to do to make my life easier, I'm going to hide the wall, I'm going to hide the pole, I'm going to select one of the poles, select everything, I'm going to go Ctrl J and combine all those meshes so that they are just one mesh. And now I can go collision and everything is going to be fine. As you can see, this is just falling down nicely. Now it's just a matter of playing with the cloth settings until you get something that you like out of it. So for instance, I want some of the balls to be a bit more tight. I want some of them to be a bit more loose. So this is where you get that going. So what I'm going to do for this first ball is I'm going to enable pressure. And what pressure does, it's basically acting as a, like, this ball is completely filled with air, and the pressure amount will kind of tell you how much air is in that that ball. So just think of a football, and this is just how filled up with air the ball is. So I'm gonna go with a pressure of maybe 5 and see how that looks like. As you can see, now that I've added this pressure, the ball is bouncing around and it's not distorting that much under its own pressure. As you can see, the rigid body or the simulation has stopped on the 250 frame, and that is because if you go under cache, you see the end frame is 250 while we have a 300 frames animation. So I'm going to start the animation, the cache at 0 and end it at 300, so it covers our entire timeline. As you can see, start from 0 and from 300. Now if I play this again, as you can see, it won't stop on the 250 and will just go on. Alright, now I think that the pressure for this first ball is a bit too much, so I'm going to almost half it and put the pressure up down to 2. Yeah, this is more interesting like this. But as you can see, I don't like the way it stops right here. So one thing you can do is either change the initial position of the ball, or even better, just go into edit mode, select this pole and just move it somewhere else in order to create some more space in between those. And just by looking at those poles, I also think that the gap between those poles is not that big, so I'm going to move this somewhere else like that. And I'm also going to do this for some other poles. So yeah, something like that. And now if I run the animation, it should look like this, and it's falling off completely, and that's exactly what I want, because the reason you want to have this come out of frame and end out of frame is because you can't otherwise loop the animation. If the start frame of the animation isn't exactly the same as the end frame, it just won't loop. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this like this, and let's see how it looks with 2 balls right now. This one, the second one, is kind of lame, it's kind of boring, so I'm gonna move it perhaps here so it falls directly into that space, and then maybe we get some more action out of it. Yeah, just like that. That's nice. And what you want to do is you want to fill out the entire of the timeline with falling balls. So an easy way to do that is I'm just going to copy this one, put it somewhere here, and I'm gonna go into its cache. And why is this one like this? I think I just copied it before I've done those changes. So make sure the cache is the same, and for this third one I'm just gonna make it start from perhaps frame 80, because I don't want all of those balls to fall at the same rate at the same time. I want them to be spread out across the whole 300 frames. So we get something like this. This one sits until it hits 80 and then it starts. Yeah, just like that. Alright, now I think it's a good time to create a camera and create the camera movement, because once we get that camera movement, it's gonna be a lot easier to fill out the animation, because we already have the camera movement and we already know what's going to be in frame, for how long the camera is gonna be moving, and so on. So I'm gonna go create a new camera. I'm gonna go into the camera settings and I'm gonna go with a 135mm focal length, and To jump into the camera, just press numpad 0. And one trick I like to use when positioning the camera is pressing N, going into view, and lock camera to view. And now, if you scroll around and move around as you normally would in Blender, the camera moves with you. So I'm now going to try and find a nice framing, and I think I want the camera to be this far. So I got my composition. I'm going to disable this so I can move out of the camera. As you can see, my camera is way over there. And what I want to do right now is just duplicate this until I fill out the frame. So as you can see, here's an empty space, and here as well. I'm just gonna go into the modifiers and add an array modifier, and I'm just gonna move this like this, and now everything's perfectly in frame. So this is how our scene is looking like right now. You get the falling balls, the third one, and everything's really nice. All right, what I want to do right now is, I know that I'm going to animate my camera moving, so kind of like this, and I want to give you the impression that it's going all the way around, like doing a 360. And we're going to use a little transition trick in there to make it loop perfectly. But until then, I want to create a new empty, and I'm going to use this empty right here to rotate and animate the rotation of the camera. So I'm selecting the camera, I'm selecting the empty, and I'm going Ctrl P, and I'm parenting the camera to that empty. So now if I rotate the empty, the camera follows. So this is me being in the camera view. I'm selecting the empty and I'm rotating this, and look at how everything is looking like. All right, so let's just start by animating the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna rotate it up until this point, I suppose. So maybe something like this. And I'm going to enable auto keying. I'm going to press R and then just click so I can set a keyframe right here. I'm gonna go to the end of my timeline, press right arrow to go one frame next. So I'm on 301, and I'm just going to rotate my camera like this, until I want this to be in the position where it's going to finish. And there you have the camera animation. So we have this. All right, what you want to do right now is select the empty and just select both of your keyframes, press T and make sure it's linear. This way you won't get an easy in effect, and it's not going to mess with the looping. So we have this, which is nice. And the way we are going to loop this is by hiding the start point and the end point of the animation. So as you could see in our original animation, the camera starts from black, like it's behind an object, and then moves around until it gets covered by another mystery object, and then it just loops back. All right, you know what, I think I'm going to make the camera focal length a bit lower, into 85, and I'm going to move this closer, yeah, just like that. So we have this right now, which is a lot more personal and up front with the actual animation, which is completely fine, and we like that. All right, as you can see, when we start the animation, we can see this empty space in here. So what I'm going to do is go back into the wall modifiers, and I'm going to increase the count like this, I'm also going to lower the wall just enough to cover up the whole frame, and I'm going to do another array modifier so it duplicates vertically. And now we don't have any empty space. We can scroll around the animation, and we see that if we move this a bit in that direction and downwards, and we increase the count in here, we most likely won't have any empty spaces anymore. No, we don't. All right, so let's take care of our starting and end point, that black transition. That's just a really easy way to do, and the way I've done it is by making some cylinders that just go in front of the camera. So I'm going Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. I don't want any cap fill, so I'm gonna go with nothing. I'm gonna shade smooth, and I'm going to increase the size of this tube, and I'm going to place it somewhere in front of our camera. Yeah, just like that. And I'm gonna make this a bit thinner, so our actual scene unveils a bit faster, like this. Yeah, that's nice. And just go to the end, and I'm going to copy the cylinder onto the other side and make sure that it covers the entire of our scene, just like that. All right, and I'm gonna make this a bit thinner as well, because I don't want it to be coming into the frame that fast. So I'll make it thinner. Yeah, so we have this right now, and then we go back into here. So basically, if we look into our animation at this point, we will get this, which is already a pretty good point for a looping animation. So we start like this, you know, stuff's happening, we're gonna fix all of those issues, don't worry. And then it just goes in here, and voila, we have a looping animation. You didn't even see the transition, and if you did see the transition for some reason, well, when we do our final lighting and shading, you won't see anything, because this is going to be completely black, so no one's gonna see anything. All right, so let me just get this back, and right now all we have to do at the moment is play with the balls and make sure that we have something that looks nice. All right, so I already like the first and the second ball, so I'm going to press the first ball I have created, and I'm going to go into the cloth settings. Under cache, I'm going to bake this simulation, and the reason why I'm bake this simulation is because then not only your viewport is going to be faster, because your computer doesn't have to do all this calculation about what's going to happen, but you also get a more clean result, both when working with it and when you're rendering out your scene. So if you click bake, it's gonna bake the whole animation, and if I hide those two balls, you can now see what's going on. That's completely nice. All right, for now I'm going to delete the bake, and what I'm going to do is go into the modifiers, and I'm going to increase the resolution of the subdivision. When you do this, when you increase the resolution of your cloth, you will get a much more detailed cloth. So see, from this it looks this is what it looks like with a level 2 subdivision, and if I go back to 1, this is what it looks like. So be sure that when you increase the level of the resolution, you also need to increase the pressure inside that. And I'm going to go with 6 this time and see what's going on. And this is too little, too low. So let's just go with 20. Yeah, that's more like it. I like that. And just bake this. It'll take a bit longer now because we have double the resolution of that object, but it's still pretty fast, so no one cares. Right, and now we have this baked cloth simulation, just like that. And what I want to do right now is do the same thing over and over until we fill out our animation with little dropping balls. So once again, I'm going to increase the resolution on this. I'm going to hide those because I want to focus on this ball, and let's see what's going on. Again, I need to increase the resolution a little bit to account for that increase in resolution. So I'm gonna go with 25 perhaps and see what's going on right now. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to, let's see. So this object gets out of frame at around 110 frames, so I'm gonna end the cache at 110 because I've got no reason to bake and simulate this for longer than I can see it. So now I'm just gonna hit bake. It's gonna bake until the 110th frame, and it's all done now. Here it is. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's fine. All right, let's unhide, and now we have 2 baked balls which are doing this, and we have a third ball that's starting to fall out at around the 80th frame. You see how this one, the third one, it's lagging when the animation is playing, and that's because we didn't bake that cloth simulation. So once again, I'm going to increase the resolution. I'm gonna hide those, and I want to see how this is looking like. Yeah, so one more time I'm going to increase the pressure up by, I don't know, 18 this time. You know, make sure you like what's going on. Yeah, just like that. All right, and it gets out of frame at 220, so I'm gonna end the cache at 220. Started at 80, and now I'm just gonna bake this cloth simulation as well. All right, let's take a look at how our animation is looking right now. This, and let me just unhide all the other balls. All right. Yep, so this is our animation so far. Now, as I've said, let's just duplicate those a bunch of times and just play them around. So I want one of it to start at frame 40 and hide all of those. And get out at 205, let's say. So 205, the pressure is alright, I don't care. I'm just gonna go bake. And we have one more ball going down. and everything is playful and interesting. One thing I'm noticing right now is that the end is kind of empty, so it's these balls, but after the 200th frame there's nothing going on. That ball is falling over, and this is just dead space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate a couple of those balls, and I'm gonna make them start on the frame 180 and perhaps, you know, 205 or something. So let's do exactly that. Just gonna grab one of those and I'm gonna copy it. I don't know, place it in here. I'm gonna go into cache and 180, and let's do 300 for this one, and let's hide those and see how this is looking like. So 180 and it starts falling like that. It doesn't have time to finish, but that is perfectly alright because we don't really care, because we have masked our entry and endpoint with those cylinders, so we're not going to see this. So that's fine, bake it. And right now I'm just gonna uncopy all of those and see how everything's looking like. So we have all of those balls falling over, everything's fine, playful. This one's coming in right now. I want another one that's maybe starts a little bit earlier than that one, and let's do that. So I'll take this ball and I'll put it in here and make it start around 155, make it end at 300, hide all of those balls, go to where that one should start and hit play to see what's going on. No, so I have another ball in there. That's perfect. And let's watch all of those together, because I want to make sure that those balls are not hitting each other, looking weird like that happened right there. In case that's happening, what you want to do is, so as you can see, those are going into each other, which is bad. So what you want to do is select this one and add a collision on it. So now this should collide with that one and not intersect with each other. Yeah, it did that, but something weird is happening in there. Let's watch it again and let's see how we are gonna fix that. So the problem is this one is already baked, and this one doesn't act as a collision object. So I'm gonna go here, enable collision, and this should fix it. Let's see. Yeah, now those balls just hit each other and bounce in opposite directions, and that's exactly what we want. Alright, that's fine. Let's bake those. So select that one, hit bake. Now select the other one and hit bake. Now let's see the whole scene from the start. Now, I think those are enough balls for our leader demonstration, our leader tutorial. Of course, if you want, you can add more and more balls. You can make them start and end and do whatever you want with them. But for now, that's fine. And let's go into making the materials. So I'll select one of the balls and go into material. Let's call this one ball. They're all gonna be the same material, so I'm just gonna create the material once and then just apply it to all of them. Of course, if you want to have different materials on different balls, you just select another one and create a new material, but that's not what I'm after. So what I want to do is increase the metallic and kind of make it this like silver ball, the 0.3, 0.4, something like that. And now I'm just gonna select all my balls, this, and make sure I select the one with the material last. And now you can press Ctrl L and share the materials, just like that. And now I have some silver balls falling around, doing their thing. Everything's nice, as you can see. Now I wanna make the material for the pole. I changed my mind, let's call this glass. And what you want to do is decrease the roughness by a lot, 0.01, and do transmission. And now we have a glass material, which looks awful because we are in EV, but when we switch to cycles, everything's gonna look really nice. So right now it's really dark, so let's do lighting right now. So the way I've done my lighting for that scene is with a simple HDRI. So just go into the world tab, click in here, environment texture, open, and go wherever you have some HDRs and just select one. Now if I look at it, I'll just try and find something interesting. So this one, I don't know. First of all, let me just change the color on this wall. So then do a pure white like this, and just take this a bit down. See what we have right now. And let me change the HDR like this. And one thing I like to always do with my HDRIs is I go into the shading tab, I go into the world, and if you have the node wrangler add-on, just click on your HDR, press Ctrl T, and now you have this mapping node. And if I now go in here, I have the mapping node and I can change the rotation of my environment. So I'm gonna move that 90 degrees, the lighting condition changes, as you can see, and this way you can look for interesting places. So I think I'm gonna set this to 90. I'm gonna increase the strength, something like this. I want to take this ball, I want to make it a little bit more reflective, so the roughness 0.2 perhaps, I don't know. And I also want to change this color a bit, so just go a bit into the red hue. I want to make this some kind of brown or something, a little bit more color. Maybe something like this. Of course you can get as creative as you want with this. So, you know, if you want to make this a vibrant color, no one's stopping you to do this. It's your animation, you can do whatever you want, but for now I just want to do some subtle color, something like this. I don't know, One thing I want to do right now is I want to go into those poles, edit mode, and I want to add some more poles in here because I know like the way this space and this space here is empty. So I'm gonna just do this. Yeah. All right. Now we have all of this, which is all right. One other thing that I've done in my original animation is I have created a torus object, and this is just a little bit of detail. I've just added a torus object around this area, just to have some more geometry in there and not have a perfectly straight wall. So I'm gonna increase the major radius to 4, 9 perhaps. Now let's do 7, and minor radius, let's do like 0.5. I want this to be a bit thicker. Let's just keep it that way, rotate it by 90 degrees, and it's placed all right. Let's just put it like that. Yeah, all right, I guess this is okay. And I'm gonna make this the same color as the wall, the same material. So we have this. I still don't like the color of the wall. I wish I could just copy the color I've done for my original animation, but I have no idea what that color was. So I know, let's do something like this. I guess this looks a bit better. I don't know. One other thing I want to do to the wall, right now it has these sharp edges, and I want to bevel that out. And the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna add a bevel modifier, limit method to angle, and width I'm gonna do like 8 segments, and I'm gonna decrease this. I'm gonna decrease the size, and now we have some round edges instead of how they used to be. So from this to this, that's nice. Now, actually, I'm gonna select this outer ring, and I'm gonna go into the materials. I'm gonna press on this little number 2, and that's gonna create an exact copy of the material it had. And I'm going to slightly darken out this material just to give it a bit of separation from that wall. And let's darken this out a bit, because I think it looks a bit cooler like this. And maybe turn this a bit higher up or even down. Yeah, I think that looks better. And yeah, just by changing those colors, everything starts to look even better. Let's select that plane. Roughness is 0.1. What if we do like 0.8? What happens? That's not the same. Even lower. If we go too low, the HDR environment starts to show up, and I don't really want that, so I'm gonna keep it at 0.1. You can increase the specularity if you want. I don't think that necessarily makes it look better, so I'm gonna keep it this way. And right now what we can do is add a bit more custom lighting in here to make this scene pop even more. So to do that, I'm going to create an area light just like this. I'm gonna increase its size to 2 meters and I'm gonna rotate it just like that. I want to place it around that area. I want it to come from this direction. And one trick I like to use is to turn off the environment. This way I get a perfectly pitch black environment and I can focus on how this specific light looks like. So I want to increase this to 100. I want to make this a bit more perpendicular like this. I want to change this color to a blue and I want to get that blue highlight in there. And now if I turn the lighting back to 2, we get some highlights in there. I just increase this to 1 or 2. Let's do 1.3 to have that sharp reflection in there. Maybe if we go like 300. This is all experimental, so you know, just play around with the settings, see what's going on. This is without, this is with 200 power. Maybe play around and change the color. Maybe this yellow makes everything look nicer. I'm gonna go with this orange, and just to add a bit of complementary color, I'm just gonna copy this and make it come from the other direction. So something like this. I want to make sure that this doesn't get in the way of the camera, so I'm gonna put it behind this pillar. I'm gonna rotate this and I'm gonna do the same trick. I'm gonna hide the first image, the first light, make everything pitch black, and just look at the way this light alone works. So I'm going to increase this to 800. I want to make this blue. What happens when I do the lighting? So yeah, we have a bit of blue coming from that direction. We can of course go way up like this, and if we add that other light, it's gonna look nice, but this is too much. I think I'm gonna go with 800 and leave it at that. You know, just enough to have a bit more lighting information. And while we are here, what we can do is add a bit of texture to this wall and not have it be this perfectly like ceramic looking. And for that I'm gonna go into the shading tab and I'm going to add some noise. Feed that through a color ramp, do a bump node, feed this into the height, add this into the normal, and now we have this, which is also interesting. So if we go back, you know, we get this wavy pattern, which I don't think looks really good. So what I want to do, the reason I say it doesn't look good is because I can't really see the poles anymore because of the whole distortion going on the wall. So what I'm going to do is increase the hell out of the scale. So go like 300 and then just decrease the strength by a lot. So we have, you know, something like this, and further increase this a little bit more. And now we have some subtle texture on the wall. I doubt that you can see it in the video, but you know, it's there. So the reason I wanted this a little bit of texture is because right here where this highlight is, I wanted to showcase that bit of texture in there, so you get a tactile feeling out of the material. All right, so this is the main part. Starts like this, it goes into falling those, and while the camera is here, I don't really like the lighting. So what I'm thinking is I want to add another light that's coming from below or from the top. So to do that, I'm gonna copy this image, this light, and I'm gonna make sure I rotate it upward and also rotate it to face the wall like this. Place it around here and increase the size to maybe 3. I'm gonna see how this is looking like. So see, we have this bit of light in here, which makes it even more interesting. And for the sole purpose of right now, I'm gonna make this reddish like this to, you know, kind of make it look like it's hell down there. I don't know, I just like how this is looking like, you know. So we have a bit of light. Maybe we even want to add that on top, so just copy that and feed it from the top like this. Perhaps maybe you want to change the color. Let's do bluish color like this, and right now everything looks way better. Maybe if I also increase the overall lighting, see how this is looking like. I think this is all right, but what I'm gonna do is go under color management, use curves, and I'm going to do a little bit of S curve to add a bit more contrast. So something like this. So before and after the curves. No, and the rest of the animation is the same we have done. All right, so we have the lighting, we have the, you know, the actual animation. The only thing we need to take care of right now is those parts, and we want to make those pitch black. So right now when I start, this is really bright. So what I'm going to do is create a new material, and I'm gonna call this like void, because it'll be completely black. So I'm gonna take the specularity off, roughness all the way up, and I'm gonna do it completely black. And one other thing I want to do is create some depth of field into the camera, because right now, as you can see, when we pass through to this pillar that's blocking our view, we have this really sharp edge, and I want to add a bit of depth of field. So I'm gonna put a cursor on there, and I'm going to add a new empty, like a sphere empty. Actually, you know what, I'm just gonna add another empty plane axis like this, and I'm going to use this as the position the camera will focus on. So if I select my camera, I enable the depth of field, and focus object, I'm just gonna take this and select my empty, just like that. And now if I go into render, you can see we have a bit of depth of field, we have a bit of fading, but I wanna decrease the size of the s-stop to perhaps 1.4 to have even more depth of field, just like that, or even, you know, a 1 for that matter. And another way you can increase this, besides dropping the f-stop, is by moving this object closer to the camera. So, something like this. And if I look at the depth of field right now, you can see it's really nice and blurry, and that's exactly what I wanted for my transition. Now I'm gonna copy that material over to this pillar, just like this, and let's see how this is looking on the end point. So perfectly black, exactly what I wanted. Covers the whole frame, and then when it hits 300 and starts over, we have a perfect loop. So let's do a test animation and see how everything's looking like. So let me just do this so you don't get distracted by what's happening out of frame. If I go into, let's just use Eevee for this test. Yeah, I just do it like this, and if I play the animation, this is what we get. Now, watching this, I think the transition takes a bit too much. I'm gonna switch back to cycles, and I'm going to change the size of this a bit. So decrease the size of this, something like that. And let's watch it right now. And this is way better. So let's just watch it in Eevee one more time. And this is what we have right now. All right, so switching back to cycles, and yep, this is the way I've created that original animation that I've showed you in the beginning. Of course, I didn't come up with the exact same thing, because I've done that animation a while back and it's pretty impossible to recreate it exactly like that. But this is pretty much the workflow, the pipeline. The colors and the lighting are changed a bit, but that's expected because it's not the same exact project. But here it is, guys. This is how I've done that animation, and if you follow along, you can create your own variation out of this. Perhaps use some more interesting shapes other than those pillars. Just get creative and create your own scene, your own lighting, and pretty much your own animation. So in this tutorial we have covered how to do cloth simulation, a little bit of cloth simulation, nothing too complex, of course. It's just some spheres falling off from those through those poles. But if you were interested in seeing how to loop an animation, well, you can make use of those tricks, like planting something that's covering the entirety of the frame when you're looping, so no one can see the actual loop. Another way you do it is to make sure that the first couple of frames match exactly the last couple of frames. So when you loop back from the end to back, nothing changes drastically. and now I can spot the looping. Alright, so this has been the tutorial. I hope you found it useful. As I said, this is a really easy animation, and you can finish something like this in like 15 to 20 minutes if you just work a bit faster and you're not doing a tutorial in which you have to talk. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next tutorial.